But what we see over and over is that when boards are provided a substantial seat at the table, the ROI, the impact can be really profound. Sometimes we'll talk about how, with great nonprofits or colleges and universities, the board may give as much as a third of all of the money in campaigns. We legitimately see that with a fair number of clients. And I'll say, we have other clients for whom that statistic, that data point, is a little daunting. It's a little scary to them. The way I couch it is to think of that as a North Star aspiration. This isn't a pass fail test. This is an opportunity for growth. It's a vision for the future on how we can use boards in a more dynamic way to influence bottom line fundraising. And so thinking about how the board can manifest a more substantial culture of philanthropy to be directly involved in fundraising. There certainly remains a faction of professionals in our industry who sometimes will take the perspective that managing a board well is difficult and time consuming, and they would simply rather put that time and energy into direct fundraising themselves and have a board that really just plays a minimal role in monitoring fiduciary processes and fundraising outcomes, but really aren't deeply involved. One of the key elements in board engagement overall is the role of the CEO, the president. In other words, not surprisingly, just like major donors and principal donors, board members have an expectation for a level of relationship and frequency of communication with the chief executive. For some presidents, this comes natural, it's intuitive, and they welcome that and are comfortable to that. For others, it can be a little more difficult. They either don't have a personal style that lends them to wanting to spend considerable time in direct face-to-face work with board members. What we often talk with them about is the ROI that can come from that. We have a lot of evidence from time spent interviewing board members and donors that there is an absolute correlation between their readiness to give, their likelihood to give, not just being aware of the need and understanding and supporting the need, but having a deep trust-based relationship with the senior most executive at the institution. So when the president becomes comfortable with investing time to build those types of relationships with board members, that is often one of the key catalysts that leads to something I was talking about earlier, which is boards stepping up and being that 1/3 contributor of an entire campaign, right? And so the CEO's role is central and often one that an institution has a chance to work on. One of the aspects of engaging boards well can be having that third party partner to say things that may be difficult for the staff to convey directly, for us to bring tangible perspective from peer and aspirant peer institutions that they respect, and for them to hear from us what may be initially a difficult truth that for them to grow as a board, they may need to think more intentionally about their board composition and the type of members that they want to bring on. So people that aren't just passionate about the organization and have a professional skill set, but who legitimately have the capacity to be a major supporter. That can be, for some organizations, a difficult conversation. But when they realize that each board seat is a precious tool to engage someone in one of the most intimate relationships with the institution, and to recognize that by populating the board with philanthropists, they are elevating philanthropy long term. For us to be able to convey some of those things as a third party partner can often open the door for new conversations to blossom between the staff and the board that ultimately leads to progress long term. Frankly, particularly for somewhat smaller, more economically fragile institutions, it creates stability long term. You're essentially building a group of committed long term donors who are going to be dedicated to the long term success of the organization.